The D in slide stands for design, and design can include a lot of different tools that you may use within your Microsoft Word. The first one I want to highlight is taking care of bulleted lists. So it is very important when you use Microsoft Word or PowerPoint that instead of creating your own bullets, that you actually use one of the versions of bulleted lists that are provided to you. You can make your own bullets, but you want to make sure that you are using a bulleted list. So if a screen reader got to this, it would actually say list. This is an example heading hierarchy, and it would list the headings. Note again from before that heading 1 is not included in here because heading 1 is the title of the document. The other thing that you want to make sure you are doing using the design tools is that you want to make sure that you're taking care of any spacing with the design tools, adding and removing space, going ahead and making things whatever spacing option you would like. So for example, if I want to create space ahead of my header, instead of going in and just hitting an enter or a return, I can add more space. And if I'm not getting enough space, I can choose the line spacing options. The reason is because every time you hit enter, you're actually going to get your screen reader saying enter, enter, enter. At the same point, if I wanted to tab down to the next page and I wanted to start on a new page, instead of all of these enters, I would want to actually go ahead and I would go ahead and insert a page break to go to the next page. So again, you want to make sure that you're using the formatting tools that are provided. The great thing about that is that when you convert this to a PDF, or if you were to make it into a different document, using that formatting tools, that's not going to steer you wrong. It's going to continue helping. Design also includes the fonts that you use. So we'll talk a little bit more outside of the video about which fonts are generally preferred, but decorative fonts, please use them only for headers. What you really want is actually a sans serif font. That means a font that doesn't have the little feet on it, as they are much easier for people to read, especially for people who have dyslexia, but also as we age and our eyes change, it helps with those as well. So you want to use consistent fonts, sans serif if possible, and we can talk about which are the most readable fonts. And the final thing you'll see for design here is the design of my tables. So you can see here, I have used a color set that really isn't very easy to read. The white on the orange, it may look pretty, but it's not high contrast. Now Microsoft Word will help you out with this contrast. And you can see I've actually set, just like spell check to underline, I have set my accessibility checker to provide me with information along the way. So to fix this, what I would do is I would use the accessibility checker, and that would help me to choose better colors for this. Something that happens commonly, and I have trouble reading it, is that we'll use gray text instead of black, and I find that particularly challenging myself. Also under design, I want to cover tables very briefly. So you can see I have a table here. A couple of things that we want to note about tables is that you want to avoid leaving any blank or empty spaces. Instead, you want to go ahead and put a dash or NA, something that indicates visually and to computer devices that this is an intentionally left blank space. Again, you can also see that I have a merged row. Many screen readers really have a very hard time understanding merges. So if they can be avoided, I know sometimes when you're presenting data, that can be really difficult. But in this case, I merged it so that I could put the title right there. But what would have actually have been better is for me to list the title above the chart altogether. Okay, so the next step that we need to do is it looks like this has a header row and and a comprehensible structure, but these are really just bolded. So in the table layout, we would go ahead and select our whole table, and we're going to want to do header row. And we also want to do first column if that first column is actually the header column. So that gives us a much more comprehensible structure. I do want to note that this does not always convey to PDF. So please do make sure if you are making a PDF, you actually highlight the row itself, click, go to Table Properties, and select Repeat as Header Row. This should not be necessary, but it does seem to be a glitch between using Adobe products and Microsoft Word. So the final thing I want to note in the design is that you have different options for helping to make sure that people who may be colorblind are able to comprehend the tables that you develop. These actually help all readers to follow your patterns. So if you click on a table that you have developed, you will get a whole bunch of different options for style. Some of the options I find actually make things much more difficult. So for example, this one, I don't find this to be helpful, but some of these styles that have a symbol as well as the color can be really very helpful. So you would just want to think about which parts of your image are most important and how to convey that to people, whether or not they can see color. And wow, we fit a lot into design. So just to go over that again, you want to use the tools that are in the design ribbons given to you by Microsoft Word instead of formatting on your own. You'd like to use lists, spacing. If you're choosing a font, a sans serif font is your best friend. You want to make sure your tables have headers, and color is great to emphasize. That really helps a lot of your learners. But if you're using color to emphasize something, try to pair it with something else, a symbol, the number, something else that all readers can have access to the same patterns.